injury attorney, SkinnerWins.com. In studio with the Admiral Bill Stubblefield, left over from the first segment. Bill, let's hope
morning,
for
Rob.
A less interesting introduction for you this morning than the one you gave us the previous half hour.
Left over and a little stale, actually.
A little stale.
Yeah, also John Gilstrap facing a deadline, very nervous. He's quite uptight about it, so much so that he's here this morning goofing off with us instead of writing the book.
I'm not thinking straight yet anyway. I gotta finish my coffee. I might as well do it here.
And Mr. Gilstrap is in the Mike Height seat
Yes.
this morning, by the way. Via telephone, David Valente in the Joe Ferretti phone chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
John Doyle is here in the Larry Schultz seat. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Fred.
And Mike Carl is here in his own chair.
Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you gentlemen here with us, is all. And I will do my best to try to keep the rotation straight because I'm very used to going to Larry and Mike at certain times in their seats. So I have to make sure I get that because the seats are different. Mr. Gilstrap is anchored into the seat from the first segment, and it hinged on the notebook that he brought.
And he's not about to give it up.
He's not giving it up.
It's a test.
Yeah, it is that. All right, let's get the show rolling here.
Go a little something like this. Hit it.
Well, here we are again as the Friday Five does gather to pontificate, bloviate, and otherwise blather. As another week has gone by, things happen that make you say, oh my. The heat dome is covering our part of the nation, and this room already smells like a deli from all the perspiration. That heat can make you do crazy things. There's no telling what 100 degrees brings. Expecting kindness to each other now seems like an act of futility as we flesh out yet another example of person-to-person incivility. Take our star of the week, Mary Morrissey, for example. The Vermont state representative busted for giving out a water sample. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Mary is now the water perp hashtag for dumping cups of water in a fellow lawmaker Jim Carroll's bag. Old Jim kept wondering who was pulling this wet bag stunt, so he set up a hidden camera worthy of Alan Funt. Needless to say, Mary was busted like a child and found herself in her own video version of Girls Gone Wild. All of this wackiness, is it caused by the humidity? I don't think so. It's not the heat, it's the stupidity. The madness isn't constrained just to north of here. Oh, anything but. In fact, it's also local life here. Why, just this week, this show is accused of bias and accused by somebody who wouldn't even try us. Now, we're fair game here as we do this show with our crew, but before you accuse us, at least show up for your interview. In just 5 days, the country will tune into a debate with mute buttons, no audience, and two heads of state. You'll get another chance to size up the best man for the job, either the head of the Biden crime family or the leader of the January 6 mob. These are your two choices for who will be the next president. If they live long enough, one will be the next White House resident. I won't be the moderator Tuesday night, but if you want my advice, above all else, just remember to hit that mute button twice. And I can confirm my mute button is up right now as I look.
I would have hated to miss all that because of a mute button.
Remember, even with the mute button malfunction, you can still hear on the radio. It's the Facebook section. Yeah. So our leadoff hitter is typically Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti, but in the leadoff chair this morning, David Valente.
Hey, good morning. I was going back and forth on my topics. I was still not sure what I'm going to talk about, but we'll just pick one. So we've got the debate coming up to Thursday, I believe. Which candidate has more to lose? Joe Biden has a slight lead in the national polls, but Donald Trump is, been hitting him on his acuity and, kind of downplay it. Well, now he's trying to upplay Joe Biden's debatability, but I think the idea that he sold the nation on Joe being, an old befuddled guy that, may be hard for Donald Trump to overcome if Joe Biden just kind of maintains a level ability during the debate. So my question is, who do you think has more to lose from the debate this week?
Who has more to lose from the debate this week? All right, let's start with you, Billy.
Yeah, I think that Joe Biden has most to lose. Joe Biden is portrayed by a lot of folks has been past his time, has been an old man, incapable of making a coherent statement. That was said before the State of the Union, and he came out of the State of the Union with high marks. We'll be able to duplicate this in a format that has no props provided. Is going to have to be basically a standalone. It's going to be curious to see how well he does. I think with Donald Trump, he's a known. Whether you like him or not, he's a known. I don't think there'll be any surprises there. But with Joe Biden, even though he's been in office for 3 years, I'm not sure he is known. People have a opinion of him, and unless he can change this image of being an old man, which he needs to do before the election. So I think Biden is the one that's got more at risk here than other two.
Yeah, there were two things that I heard discussed about this upcoming debate this morning on national news features that were done. One was that Donald Trump is not going to interrupt Biden as much as he did in the previous debate because it didn't score well.
Plus, the mic's off.
Well.
He
Yeah,
cannot
he
do
can't.
it. He cannot.
Well, you can't now because of the mute buttons. We all know about mute buttons. Right?
And Donald Trump stop talking though?
well, you won't. That's the old tree falls in a forest thing, right? But the second one was that he set the bar so low for Biden, and David was talking about this in his intro. He set the bar so low for Biden 4 years ago that anything that President Biden did was surpassing the expectations. So his mission this time between now and Tuesday is to raise the expectations for President Biden so that he would now fall below those raised expectations. It's kind of interesting, the psychology involved in that. Mr. Gilstrap.
Well, taking the question at face value, Biden has the presidency to lose. So I guess he has the most to lose. I think he also has more eyes are going to be on Biden than are on Trump. Trump, it's rare. I don't think this has ever happened before, certainly not in my lifetime, that two debaters actually have whole administrations or the better parts of administrations to put on trial in front of people. So if Trump can keep his temper under control and can stay away from his victimhood, that I lost the election, I won the election, it was stolen from me. And if he can talk about this is what your life was like during my administration, and this is what your life has been like during the Biden administration, and not harp on Biden's frailties. I think Biden's frailties are well known. Even if he does a good performance during this debate, our lying eyes will not be denied, right? We all know what Biden's frailties are. If Trump can stay out of his own way, I think he will walk away with this debate. The bar has been set so low for Biden in terms of his. You hear it in the CNNs of the world and Washington Post and such, that everybody is so concerned that it's not his mental acuity, it's his stutter, and that there are all kinds of the cheap fakes that we've been hearing about, that he's not really cognitively troubled. It's something other than that. So the bar has been set very low, and if Biden doesn't have a lot to stand on in terms of his record, I don't think, if Trump can frame it properly. If we can talk about the border, if we can talk about the economy, if we can talk about, I don't know. Of course, I'm quite right wing, so I don't know what Biden could talk about that would win me over. So it's Trump's debate to lose, I think.
Interesting point. I thought about this on the drive-in, John, because you said you don't know if this has ever happened before, where a president took on a president. 1893, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison. That's the last time you had.
They didn't debate.
You had two presidents going up against each other for election, and both had White House experience.
But even the rules have been set in a way that goes against Biden, in the sense that they're not going to walk in. And we all know they're not going to walk in because Trump will stride in and Biden would shuffle in. So all of these all of the precursors, I think, work against Biden from the very beginning. So I think he's got a lot to lose.
Mr. Carl.
Well, I agree and disagree with what I just heard. I think Trump has by far the most to lose because Biden's already lost it, and Trump needs to play it prudently, but the structure, I mean the setup is designed to keep Biden from looking bad. I mean that the no over talking and the way the mics are set up and it's very disciplined and it's unlike the
Free for all.
4 years ago. But I think Trump has the most to lose. I agree in that sense that because I think he's these polls I don't buy the Biden slight lead. I mean the percent of error absorbs the difference, but without a doubt of reality of those polls. So I think it's real close, but I think Trump has the most to lose, partly because it's the setting is set up to keep Biden from looking as bad as he is.
John Doyle.
Well, I disagree with everybody. First of all, this race is going to be dead even, clear up until Election Day. Secondly, it depends on how you structure it. I think if either turns in a bad performance, they fall behind because the race is so close. Now, a weak Biden performance would cause him to fall farther behind. But if it's the opposite, if it's a weak Trump performance, he falls behind enough that if he had the election, he'd lose the election. So that's why I think really it's equal. And I think that Joe Biden has an awful lot of substance going for him. He got 4 bills passed, 4 really important bills passed in his first 2 years. The Inflation Reduction Act, the Chips and Sciences Act, the Infrastructure Act, and the first one, the COVID Relief Act, 2 of which he got passed by being able to cobble together genuine bipartisan majorities to get them through. This is a really good record for a president in his first term. So I think there are a number of things that Biden can say, here's what we got done. And so I'm strapped in and ready for the ride.
There's another aspect as well, and that is what will it do to the convention? If Biden does fares very poorly in the debate, will that influence a movement during the convention to
that is an excellent point, and thank you.
But yeah, a couple of things here, John. The first year Biden, if you really look, if we're going to be honest, if I'm honest and I'm looking at this, the cognitive decline or the physical decline that I equate with cognitive decline between first year Biden and current Biden is dramatic.
I disagree. It is a physical decline. His bad knees have gotten worse. He walks much more stiffly. I don't really see a change in his decision making.
Okay, then.
Is that good or bad, though, John?
Right.
Did he,
Yeah.
did he
Yeah.
start
Well,
off?
it depends on
That's
whether
the
you
problem.
It depends on whether you agree with his decisions.
He's still a left winger that he always was.
And ultimately, it's going to be what 300,000 people that are going to decide this election, and they're
if
all in
that.
4 states, right?
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Bill.
Now, I was going to say, we can see Biden physical problems up every time he appears. What we do not see is what he does in the mental aspect behind closed doors. Who's setting policy? We tend to default to the fact that he walks slow, that he's abdicated, and he does not set the policy. Those folks that we and it depends which media you listen to, is he does nothing with setting policy. He sits back there as is totally incoherent. Others would say that he has full control. And John is exactly right. He has passed 4 bills. If you look at 4 very significant bills, if you look at most matrices of his success rate has been very, very, very impressive. And this comes back and argues the point, should we judge him on the way he walks, or should we judge him on his effectiveness?
What do you think would have happened to Franklin Roosevelt if the voters knew he needed a wheelchair?
I was thinking that myself, John.
But no, come on, you can't do that. Biden gets.
What do you mean I can't do that?
And actually they did.
That's apples and oranges. I'm not suggesting that if somebody doesn't have the use of his legs that he's cognitively impaired. I'm saying when you get lost in the middle of a sentence, which I frequently do, but if you get lost in the middle of a sentence, the way that Biden does, that is indicative of something. And if in fact he is as dynamic and as commanding in these Oval Office meetings as Corinne Jean-Pierre will lead us to believe, why haven't we seen that in a video? You know, the White House is filled with photographers, and this is an election year. Surely somebody can cobble together some kind of, hey, here's our real leader, and we've never seen those.
His appearance of getting lost in thought is, I think, a reflection of his stammering. By contrast, I rarely hear Donald Trump utter a complete sentence.
Yeah, I mean, the whole electric battery in a boat speech was just absolutely crazy.
He can't even remember the name of his own doctor.
Yeah, I mean, here's a couple of things to also think about with this debate. There were choices. Joe Biden won a coin flip going into this debate, and had the choice, he could have chosen to go last to make the final closing argument. Instead, chose to have a podium, which I think speaks to the idea that he doesn't want to be standing in front of people without any aid. So it was an interesting choice because he sacrificed the ability to make the final closing argument to have something to hold on to, essentially. I do think that if it goes, let's say he has a Mitch McConnell moment, he kind of goes off into the wilderness, that we do see a broker convention out of the Democrats. But, I think with Donald Trump, yeah, he's not going to have the mic. We may not hear exactly what he's saying, but I don't think he has the ability to stop himself.
You'll see him.
That's the wild card. I can't argue that.
That line from Shrek when they're talking to Donkey, what you lack is the capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be twitching on the side there as Joe Biden is speaking, and we'll probably see his lips moving. May not be able to hear him. I do think that actually the fact that there are muted mics benefits Trump in that we won't be able to hear some of the stuff that he says. But I don't. To me, I think it's closer to what John is saying, is that we'll probably see this as it's a tie going into it of who has most to lose because it is so close right now. But I do think that Trump has done such a job of selling that Joe Biden has cognitive decline that, Joe just making it through the debate is going to be a win. And so I think the advantage goes to Joe Biden going into this debate.
Yeah, I agree, David. And actually, a couple of things. I think 4 years ago, I think Biden benefited from Trump going on and on and on and yelling and screaming.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I was surprised that the Biden camp said we want to have a mute button.
Yes.
I think Biden would look better if they let him go on and on. And also I think Trump figured out too late that he needed to start saying Biden's a great debater. I mean, he's gone on so long saying that Biden is cognitively impaired, and now all of a sudden he's a great debater. I think Trump needed to start that a lot sooner.
I think the way Bill started the show today with his comment, I thought Bill was going to break out. He's a master. I didn't finish the second half of that for you, Bill.
You did not, and I'm struggling. What did I say?
Never mind. But your point's a good one too, John, because it reminds us of the criticism of Trump in that first debate from 4 years ago, which was the idea was to let Biden talk enough to make people listen to him talk and realize that he doesn't have it all together. And he didn't do that because he dominated the conversation.
Right.
I think the more he lets Biden talk in this one, the worse it is for Biden.
It's historically the big debate moments though have been the counterpunch, not the punch, right? So
That's true.
You're no John Kennedy, right?
and the whole age thing that Ronald Reagan did and all of this. So we'll see how that goes too, because I'm not sure either of them are great at those. So.
I think when you're looking at who has the most to lose, David, I think you have to look at who has the most right now. Joe Biden has the presidency. You can't lose more than the president. That's the biggest.
Although Donald Trump would
possession
lose
there
the
is.
ability to pardon himself if.
No, but I don't think Trump loses no matter what happens. Because if he doesn't win, he's going to say that the election was stolen again, and he's going to have another 4 years of riding on that to run again in 4 years.
I'm going to muddy this some more. I've seen plenty of elections where the candidate that lost most of the debates ended up winning the election.
Well,
Name one.
George W. Bush and John Kerry. Yeah, Kerry won 2 of those 3 debates.
That's all perspective.
Yeah, I don't know how you name.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
And the counterpunch, Lloyd Benson. That's the best counterpunch ever, and they lost.
well, but
John
that was
Kennedy.
a vice presidential
Yeah.
debate,
Okay.
and very few people vote on that.
Okay.
Right? At least you would think. David, we've got. Did you have something, John?
I was just going to say, and that was brilliant. The John Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Quayle's team begged him to not use that line.
Yeah.
Because they knew
He
it
had
was
to
waiting.
see it coming.
But
Yeah.
he sat on it and he used it.
And the Ronald Reagan talking about youth. That is.
Yeah.
That was a classic line.
That's
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah, and actually, you go back, this date in history is when Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity for the assassination attempt at Ronald Reagan.
And it was kind of, not to get sidetracked here, but when Ronald Reagan delivered that line about not going to use his youth and inexperience, Mondale had the decency to laugh very hard at that. He really knew that he'd been had. It was,
I think
a well-delivered
I think
line.
he was genuinely
Yes.
amused by
Yeah.
it.
It was like, okay,
Yeah.
you got that.
That was a different time.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Reagan was a likable guy in person from all accounts from the people you hear that interacted with him.
And Benson was a nice guy. And
Yeah. So, David, the final word goes to you.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting debate. I think that you can make a case for both guys having a ton to lose out of this debate. The ability to avoid prosecution on a lot of these things that are coming down the pike for Donald Trump is one of them. Joe Biden losing the presidency. Depending on your opinion of Donald Trump, the American democracy, we could all lose. And frequently when it comes to these debates, it feels like we all lose with these things. So, but yeah, I've long been an advocate, at least on the Democratic side, that, if Joe Biden, this is a great time for Joe Biden to do this debate. One, it sells him before the convention, but it also gives the Democrats an out if it goes badly. And I think a fascinating moment of American television will happen if we get a broker convention, especially since the Democratic convention's in Chicago again. I hope we don't get another 1968, but at least a broker convention would be a very fascinating moment for American political history to see that go down and see what emerges from the Democratic Party if it does happen.
The last convention that went beyond one ballot was in 1952, and that was also in Chicago.
Keith
David,
Offer
good stuff
was one.
leading off the program. Bill, you're on the clock. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg, and TV 10. If you or someone you know suffers from the disease of addiction, help is available from the Berkeley County Quick Response Team with peer recovery coaches and support promptly to the homes of those who've recently experienced an overdose. This collective effort towards recovery brings resources and services to the community, including naloxone and treatment options. Call 304-267-1313 or visit the Berkeley County Recovery Resource Center at 800 Emmett Rouse Drive, Martinsburg. The Berkeley County Quick Response Team is funded through a DHHR grant with the Berkeley Morgan County Health Department. When you're looking for the perfect gift, look no further than L.A. Roberts Jewelers at 146 North Queen Street in downtown Martinsburg. Choose from a huge selection of unique items, from the finest diamonds that make your eyes sparkle to exquisite timepieces, figurines, and collectibles. Buying from L.A. Roberts Jewelers means that you've made the decision to do business with people who've excelled in the industry for more than 100 years. They'll be here tomorrow when you need them, and if you need your jewelry or your watch repaired, they'll do that too. L.A. Roberts in downtown Martinsburg. Old World Jewelers for a new age.
Panhandle Printing and Design is your full-service local print shop.
With over 50 years of combined experience, we know how to handle all of your printing and design needs.
We can handle anything, from small business cards to wrapping large vehicles. Our in-house design team can do it all. As a staple of this community, we love helping people promote their events, businesses, and anything they're passionate about. Envision, create, and bring your ideas to life with Panhandle Printing and Design.
The Palace Lounge in Martinsburg is the place to be. Join us every night to relax and enjoy football or basketball games featuring either the Martinsburg Bulldogs, Shepherd University Rams, or West Virginia Mountaineers. We will have steak night every Wednesday, shrimp nights every Thursday, and now taco and margarita nights every Tuesday. You can find us on Facebook or call 304-267-7520. The Palace Lounge is located at 1350 Edwin Miller Boulevard in Martinsburg.
Hey, it's Cody from Cody's Auto Body.
You're a potty mouth.
But we do a really great job fixing cars after an accident.
I know, but you're still a potty mouth.
I'm possibly the best friend you could ever have.
You are, but potty mouth.
If you need your car repaired, come to Cody's Auto Body, located at 851 Wilson Street in Martinsburg. Because that's Cody's with a T for f***ing trust.
See? Potty mouth.
Leave me alone.
Most insurance companies see you as a claim number. Most law firms see you as a case file. When their top priority is their bottom line, you only get a fraction of the attention that you deserve. At the law firm of Burke, Schultz, Harmon & Jenkinson, it's personal. We listen to our clients to see the whole picture, because every part of you is important. For a team built on relationships and results, call Burke, Schultz, Harmon & Jenkinson at 304 Lawyers. Or visit us at burkeandschultz.com.
Is your skin dry or breaking out, or your muscles sore and tight? Then take a few hours or even a whole day to refresh yourself, recover, and rejuvenate at Personal Reflection Day Spa, located at 102 Hovatter Drive in Inwood. Personal Reflection Day Spa is an award-winning spa for 15 consecutive years. The friendly, experienced staff will give you the treatment you deserve from the minute you walk in the door. Book your appointment by calling 304-821-1333 or online at personalreflectiondayspa.com.
I do.
We got double the Rock's gas rewards, 6 cents off a gallon.
I can't believe you didn't fill up.
That's double my rent. Not my car.
Save now with double the gas discount. 6 cents off a gallon with Rock's Rewards.
We got double the Rock's gas rewards, 6 cents off a gallon.
You had one job.
It's between girls.
Save now with double the gas discount. 6 cents off a gallon with Rock's Rewards.
The Classical Christian Academy at Bethel is helping create extraordinary futures.
So we've seen improvements in our boys on the, as I said, arithmetic, reading and writing.
I worked in the county, I worked in public school, and that's what I knew. And I knew I wanted to be able to give her more. So I would recommend this to anyone.
You know, our daughter has thrived here. The family-like environment is exactly what she needed.
The Classical Christian Academy at Bethel in Martinsburg, equipping children to lead lives of significant impact.
Life is evolving. Over the past decade, the way we do almost everything has changed. Get on your phone, see something you like, click on it, and it shows up at your door. Why should the way you have your car serviced be any different? Why waste your time going to a dealership service department when Hagerstown Ford and Hancock Chevrolet will come to you? They service all makes, all models, and offer full parts and labor warranties. Hagerstown Ford and Hancock Chevrolet will come to your door or office and service your vehicle while you're doing what you need to be doing, conducting that business meeting or mowing the lawn. Why take time out of your busy schedule when you don't have to? Hagerstown Ford and Hancock Chevrolet's friendly, knowledgeable staff will come to you where you live or where you work for full service maintenance, from oil changes to tire rotations, brakes, batteries, multi-point inspections. They handle it all. Hagerstown Ford and Hancock Chevrolet is committed to delivering the best of the best to their customers. Trust them to service your vehicle where you're at home or at work. Skip the time-consuming and terminal wait at the dealership. Schedule your appointment at fordofhagerstown.com or hancockchevy.com.
Little League Baseball is back on Talk Radio WRNR and TV 10.
The 0-2 pitch. Called strike 3, Martinsburg. Wins 1-0. Liam Coe gets the no-hitter and sends the All-Star team from Martinsburg to the state tournament.
Join us for the area and district tournaments. The area tournament will take place June 20th through the 24th, and the district tournament is July 2nd and 3rd on your Eastern Panhandle sports leader, Talk Radio WRNR and TV 10.
We are produced by the sports doctor Colin McLaughlin and brought to you in part by Hagerstown Ford, also by the Mansion Ferretti Law Firm in Martinsburg, where it's about seeking justice for you. Get more with Mansion Ferretti, WBJusticeLawyers.com today. Joined in the second hour of the Friday crew with the Admiral Bill Stubblefield. Billy.
Good morning again, Rob. Great to be here.
Great to have you. via telephone in the Joe Ferretti phone chair, David Valente. Mr. Valente, good morning.
Good morning.
Trading out one Italian for another. Mike Carl's in his own seat here this morning. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be here.
John Doyle, while sitting in the Mike Height chair, is actually substituting for Larry Schultz. Mr. Doyle.
Well, good morning.
And in the Larry Schultz chair, but filling in for Mike Height, is issue number 2's bringer, or number 3 bringer, John Gilstrap, which comes your way right after the Admiral takes the first issue of the second hour.
I had debated a couple. One was the Louisiana passing the law requiring the 10 Commandments be prominently displayed at all grade levels. I think we can have a rich discussion with that. But I'm going to another one that I think may also result in quite a bit of rich discussion. This past week, the Board of Education in Los Angeles, in California, I think is Los Angeles, banned all personal phones from the local schools, all grade levels. And they did this for a couple of 3 reasons. They said it was the discipline, it would impact discipline, it would impact the attention given to the teachers, and it would also impact the respect offered to the teachers. I'm sure there's going to be legal problems with that, or legal challenges, but we in Berkeley County have had our own experience with schools that had discipline problems and lack of respect. Is this something that we should see in Berkeley County, where the iPhones that students carry to class should be banned from the schools?
No smartphones in schools during school hours. Mr. Gilstrap, what do you think?
I'm of two minds on this. I think that the technology is what it is. So I think we should disallow the texting and the distractions and all of that. But on the other hand, if there is an emergency at the school, if the kid needs to call 911, if there's you hear these active shooter things and the kid's in the closet down the hall and he's on the phone with 911 where he's calling his parents, there's no other way to do that except to have a phone, right? So to eliminate that kind of emergency communication, I think is really problematic. Or to not be able to document what we see, the fights in the hallways and these terrible interactions, whether it's between kids or it's between students and kids. That kind of documentation is important to have. So if to eliminate that at the same time that you're eliminating the distractions, I don't know that you could do one without the other. As you're asking the question, it occurred to me, we have airplane mode, for phones, so that you have sort of limited function while you're on an airplane, which I really wonder. I've got to ask a pilot if that's really a thing, if it does anything, if it's really necessary. But I digress. I wonder if there's not like a school mode that you can put a phone on. It could be developed for a phone that would allow emergency communication, but would not allow access to all of these distractions. You know, if that's not a technology that should be developed, that would be the best of all worlds. But I really have two minds. I certainly understand what they're trying to do. The kids are all given computers, right, in the school. Maybe that's the solution for what I'm trying to solve. But just to say absolutely no phones, that also sets up, well, the teacher stole my phone. Well, he never gave me a phone. Well, yes, I did. So you have all of that too. Once you start taking people's property from them, it opens a lot of bad doors, I think.
Mr. Valente.
Yeah, I'm really on the line of what John's thinking, is that, yeah, it sounds good in theory, but the enforcement is going to be an issue. Taking phones, taking property. He made a good point about what happens during active shootings and things like that. A lot of times police will use a child on the phone to locate where they're at while, they're sweeping a school to get them out. So, there is functional utility for them having phones in the classroom. I guess there are the problem is that, we can take away the phones between during the school hours, but they're also, by and large, kids are being raised on phones and being raised on technology that I'll go to the restaurant and see, parents talking at the table and a kid is just lost on an iPad. So they're missing certain skills and development that I think there are larger issues at play than just the presence of a phone in the classroom. We have given these kids, technology for use in the classroom that I think can just as easily be used as a distraction while during learning. And I don't know that just having the phones out of the classroom will fix discipline issues. There are deeper issues than just the presence of phones here. So I understand what they're trying to do here, but I don't think that this is going to be an effective tool for restoring discipline to the classroom.
Mr. Doyle.
I agree with what you've said so far, both of you. But there's a real problem with learning now because of the interference of those things in the classroom. And I think that, at least for now, overrides these other considerations. I think there are any of a number of ways you can do it. You can say to the kids, you get to school, you put your phone in the locker, and when you leave, you take your phone with you. At least there'll be a period of several hours where they're not being addicted to these things. They'll be accustomed to communicating with each other in just like we are here now, as opposed to what you have now is, two kids sitting next to each other, texting to each other instead of talking to each other, even during a break. I mean, I do think we have to get back to the point where the kids learn to actually be human with each other for a few hours a day. That, I think, is the most important one, and for that reason, we should do it. Like I say, there are a number of ways you can do it. Maybe you can do it. Maybe teachers are able to supervise when you put your phone on mute during the class, and then you can turn it back on in the 10-15 minutes between classes. But then the problem with that is you're going to take some time from the teacher making sure each one of the students has the phone on mute before you start teaching the class. That's a weakness of that one. Maybe you have them turn it in at homeroom every day, and then there's a 5-minute homeroom at the end of the day when they pick their phone up. There are ways it can be done. I do think it needs to be done.
Jeff Haddock said, my son's phone can close down everything except being able to call. It can be done. People, this is 2024. That phone can do anything, any kind of control on it. Yeah, you don't have to go out of the way to make them go to a home room to turn it in. It's simple. Done. Like Carl.
Well, I find myself in a very unusual position of generally agreeing with a policy proposal in California, and even more radically agreeing with John Doyle.
Hey, there's a pig flying. Right?
I think that they should take those phones away. The teacher will have a phone and all these things about emergencies, and that's so I don't think you need every kid to have a phone to have that kind of coverage and protection. But I am a big opponent of artificial intelligence and what it's doing, particularly to young people, and let's go back to the educational system that worked for America forever, and end this distraction that technology has created in our education system.
Comes back to you, Bill.
Yeah, there'll be challenges of this policy, implement the policy, but I think it should be seriously looked at.
So, go ahead, John.
I was going to say a sad story. My wife and I actually text each other in the house.
Yeah, but the size of your house isn't like,
Well, it's better than screaming at each other.
It's a big house.
From one level to the other,
You're
right?
like-
So you're just going
like Jed Clampett over there in Beverly Hills. That's a
It's
big
not
house.
that big a house.
To get through
But,
in order to talk to people.
It's more civil than yelling at each other. So.
Yeah. So all of us went to school in a time when nobody had a cell phone in school, and we were all able to get a ride home. We were all able to get to school, and we were all able to complete our classwork and function as such without a phone. John makes a good point. There are differences now. We didn't deal with the idiots in the school with guns that they deal with now. We didn't deal with that sort of thing. However, teacher would have a phone, and that call could be made by a teacher just the same as it would be made by a child. In regards to documenting fights on your phone, boy, I'll tell you, you don't have to spend more than about 30 seconds on X to find all sorts of videos of kids getting in fights in classes. Here's what we did when I was in school. Instead of videotaping a fight that was going on in the school, we broke it up. That's what we did. We broke up the fight. Or if there was an idiot jumping in, you pulled him off so the two kids that were scraping could go and do it and get it out of their system. And then at the end, the principal would make you shake hands and be friends. Right?
Well, and that's the other side.
We
of
didn't
it.
sit around videotaping to see how much money we could make by sitting it out on social media.
And if you took the phones away, you would have the courage. If you weren't afraid of being photographed doing something, maybe as a teacher, you'd be more willing to go in and pull the knuckleheads apart and break up the fight.
That's right.
And not be worried about being brought up on charges because you touched the knuckleheads.
Issue number 3, Mr. Gilstrap.
All right. Find my notes. All right. Earlier this week, I read this very long and fascinating article by historian Neil Ferguson. And it talked about some of the issues that are going on, a lot of the issues that are going on in America. And some of the statistics that really concern me is that the public confidence in America currently in the Supreme Court, banks, public schools, presidency and such, among Americans polls out at 25 to 27%. For Congress, it's 8%. For the criminal justice system, it's less than 20%. And these numbers are less than half of what they were in 1979. So we have this great collapse in public confidence in the essentials of the United States. And I've said on the show a number of times that that's all we have. It's the United States, the whole system is nothing but an idea. And if you lose faith in the idea, then there's really nothing left. So we have seen over the course of the past few years, and there are many of them, I'm going to pick on the ones that came to mind as I was writing this up. We know that the institutions recently have lied about such things as the Steele dossier, the Hunter laptop, we talked about the cheap fakes, kind of the gaslighting stuff that has been going on, and all sides do it. What you see is not really what you're seeing. Now the Supreme Court is hearing a case or he's going to decide. They've already heard it. They're deciding on a case, Murphy versus Missouri, where the Biden administration is arguing that it has every right to collude with big tech to manage information and how it's disseminated on such things. This goes back to COVID and the silencing of all different ideas of the origins of COVID and the efficacy of masks and that sort of thing. The government's stepping in and pressuring big tech to say, no, don't put out this information. Well, now it's coming out that a lot of that information was correct. And the government, the administration is maintaining that they had every right to do that out of the public interest to manage misinformation. Well, now we're seeing that the public confidence is suffering as a result of this. So my question to the panel is this: is it time for the government, certainly the executive branch, to step back and just let the First Amendment be the First Amendment and let information flow and trust the American people to be smart enough to judge what is and what is not true?
Mike Carr, you go first.
Well, I basically think we should let the First Amendment be the First Amendment, and of course I have a lot more less confidence in the if the federal government manages data and disclosures if it's Biden and the Democrats making that management, but the principle, I believe, the First Amendment should be respected, and the government should be real limited or barred from managing information like that.
David Valente.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the government manages information is a scary thing if you're anywhere near a student of history. Just knowing that what can be brought out of that, and you're right. Every time the government gets caught in a lie, it erodes faith in institutions. There's also other things that are at work here, and other governments are certainly interested in fomenting dissent to weaken America with bad news stories. So there are things to consider here, but for me, I think the information superhighway is that we've got to be able to have all the information at our fingertips and let us decide. It also goes back to an education component of all, how do we teach children and even adults how to process information and think critically, rather than looking at the first clickbait headline and sharing it without even reading the article, that foments some sort of panic about this or that. But when it comes to the government really should back off, because it is harming itself every time it does it. And I think they're starting to overcorrect in that, when the institutions are questioned, that they're cracking down harder, and it's a very concerning trend. So I would say get the government out of information, continue to teach and really ramp up the ability to teach children and adults how to think critically, how to process information, how to look up information and verify stuff before they accept it as fact, because we've got way too much of that going on right now.
So it's so much harder to verify information as fact in 2024.
Sure.
Heck, when I look stuff up, I'm half afraid to click on the link for fear I might get malware or some type of virus, right? So, Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, John, I wish it was as simple as what you laid it out, but unfortunately it is not. Freedom of speech, if you had unlimited freedom of speech, you'd be allowed to do all sorts of child pornography, obscene material. Everything would flood our airways. The using IA to attribute one person saying something whence they did not say it. There's just the imagination could run wild with misinformation, or real information such as child pornography could be thrown everywhere we look. So there are concerns which we as Americans have over unlimited free press, or the first Constitution, I should say. however, most of us agree, and I parrot what others have said, that we would like to reduce the government interference. As soon as the Biden administration proposed this somewhat restriction, the federal system, not the state system, Louisiana specifically, filed an injunction against the federal government. Says you cannot do that, and that's what we're hearing in the Supreme Court right now. Perhaps that will give some guardrails to what can or cannot be done. But in our day and time, it's extremely difficult to determine what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And again, the gist of your question is good, but it's not a simple answer.
But I want to push back a little bit, especially on something like child pornography. Child pornography is a crime against children. So there's violence being committed against a child that is being filmed. So that's a crime unto itself. So put that aside. That there's nothing in freedom of speech that allows you to commit a crime against a child. So that's something.
But that's
else.
been used as an example.
Well, no, pornography. That's different.
Yeah.
Now, take the child out of it. That's Potter Stewart, I think, was the one who said pornography. You know it when you see it. Yeah. So what is indecency or pornography to one person is something to somebody else. And I do think that in that case, if you don't want to see it, don't look at it. If you don't want to read this book, don't read that book. But I think it's important not to conflate freedom of speech with permitting other crimes like libel or slander.
Mr. Carl, you're the only attorney left in the stage here at the moment, with the absence of Mr. Ferretti and Mr. Schultz. So get into freedom of speech. I think it's one of the most misunderstood rights that we have.
I absolutely agree with what was just said. That over the years, our judicial system, ultimately concluding with the U.S. Supreme Court, but at all levels, has recognized limitations on expression, public expression, in certain instances. And when you're lying, and then you can be sued if somebody suffers some kind of a financial injury because of it. There's millions of instances of that protection, and the same thing's child pornography, and there are clear standards that have been long set over a century, really, and of course we have more effective and pervasive communication systems now, but those principles remain. And I think that structure of the law that recognizes limitations in certain instances where people are harmed and have a cause of action in the judicial system against the people who are harming them through communications is the way to work. But there's no question that the government can overstep the established limits, in responses, and we don't need that.
That's good, John.
I think,
David.
I think with every restriction, I would say most of the restrictions that we have with the First Amendment are harm based. That there has to be some kind of tangible harm that is brought. Now the government could make the case that spreading information about COVID was potentially harming people, but I think I don't like the idea that the government can overstep on social media and drive more of a propaganda stance about what's going on in the country, because as we saw with COVID, a lot of that information is now coming out that they were wrong, and I would rather us keep it to a strict harm of a person, tangible harm, rather than because the government disagrees with the narrative that it needs to be shut down.
John Doyle?
There needs to be a rule of reason here. I agree generally with what Mr. Gilstrap has said, with one exception. I don't think it's just the executive branch. The legislative branch does the same thing.
Sure.
And I think they're equal. Every administration since George Washington has, at least on occasion, tried to keep negative information from getting out. It's human nature. And there needs to be a set of rules that says, okay, there are times when it's necessary. Clearly, we didn't want, in 1944, in June of 1944, we didn't want word about the D-Day invasion getting out. But there's plenty of other things that are simply just embarrassing to public officials. And that information should be available. And we need to find a set of rules that gives us the ability to say, in this particular case, no. In this other particular case, yes.
Final word goes back to you, John Gilstrap.
Well, I think we have classified documents, that's another clear set of laws. We used to transport, back when I was in that line of work, we used to transport weapon systems down the road with false placards on them, saying that what was in this truck was something entirely vanilla, when in fact it could blow up your neighborhood. Which, it was a carve out in the law that allowed us to do that. For the record, I don't have a problem if Facebook or social media wants to, because I belong to this group. If Facebook decides that, okay, this group does not belong on our site and I'm not going to let them do that, I think it's a foolish decision. But if that's what they want to do, that's fine, because they're a private company. It's when the government comes in and says, we don't want you to do that. That's the line that can't be crossed. And I say, keep the government out of it. Let business do what they want to do. Keep the government out of it.
And on that note, we take our break. A segment brought to you in part by the Manchin Ferretti Law Offices at wvjusticelawyers.com. Also by Orsini's Home Store. Not just an appliance store any longer. At 360 Hack Wilson Way at Orsini's.com. Mr. Doyle, you're on the clock.
After a car accident, what do you get when you call Manchin Ferretti?
You get more experience from a local law firm with over 115 years of combined service.
More respect from a team who treats clients like their own family.
And more fight, because we want you to get every dollar you deserve.
Experience, respect, results. If you've been injured, that's what you want in your lawyer.
And that's what you'll get when you call us. Car accident? Get more with Manchin Ferretti. 304-264-8505.
Hi, this is Larry DeMarco. I'm with Century 21 Modern Realty Results. Macy Folk and I have a new listing here at 614 South Queen Street. We'd love to give you a tour.
This charming stone home is turnkey ready. It has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a fenced-in backyard, stone fireplace, new HVAC, stainless steel appliances, hardwood floors on the first 2 levels, and luxury vinyl flooring on the 3rd and 4th levels. There's plenty of room for a growing family with 2,008 square feet of living space. The home is located within walking distance to Martinsburg High School at 614 South Queen Street. Stop inside to discover a fully renovated interior that exudes elegance and charm by calling Macy Folk at 304-676-5050 or by emailing her at macyfolk1@gmail.com. The Larry DeMarco team at Century 21 Modern Realty Results is located at 804 North Queen Street in Martinsburg.
With 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states, Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%, Parsons' goal of financing for all, and Parsons' famous above market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
The WVU Heart and Vascular Institute is pleased to announce that thoracic surgery with Dr. Shalini Reddy is now available in Martinsburg at WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center. Dr. Reddy has practiced thoracic surgery in the region for over 8 years and offers robotic laparoscopic surgeries for the lungs, esophagus, and more. For more information about thoracic surgery in Martinsburg, check us out online at mywvuheart.com.
The Contemporary American Theater Festival in Shepherdstown returns July 5th through the 28th with 4 new productions, including Enough to Let the Light In by Paloma Nozeca. This psychological thriller tells the story of a couple whose haunting past meets their promising future. Check out the full complement of plays, including a bonus production, during this year's Contemporary American Theater Festival, July 5th through the 28th in Shepherdstown, with tickets beginning at just $40. For tickets and more information, visit catf.org. That's catf.org.
Mommy, where does flavor come from?
Well, when people love food, they cook it on a Traeger grill. Meat, corn, even pie. And then the Traeger does the rest, which brings everyone to celebrate this beautiful thing that they've created. Because when you share delicious food with your friends, that's the flavor of life.
Shop now and save at Orsini's today.
This segment of our show today brought to you in part by Danny Staggers, elder care attorney in downtown Martinsburg. Also by Century 21 Modern Realty Results, Larry DeMarco and Company, and L.A. Roberts Jewelers. Ray Davies' birthday today, born in the state 1944. The Kinks playing us in here for issue number 4, and with that issue, Mr. John Doyle.
Jefferson County's growth historically, and I'm going back to 1950, when Jefferson County had 17,000 people and Berkeley County had 30,000, has been of a different nature than Berkeley County's growth. Berkeley County's growth has been relatively steady over that period of time, relatively even, say 20%, 2% per year, 20% every 10 years over that period of time. Jefferson's is different. It comes in waves over the Blue Ridge. You'll have some years and a period of time. A good example is from 2010 to 2020, where the growth was only about less than 0.5% per year. Then you will have other 10-year periods where it's closer to the 2% or even 3 or 4. We are now in one of those. We have now begun in 2020, one of the periods where the wave is coming again, and during those waves, the idea of controlling growth becomes predominant among discussions and people in Jefferson County, and you hear it all over the place. Right now, there are several subdivisions that people are concerned about. The one that I think is most predominant is one called Bird Hill. It is located in Carneysville. As you drive on Old Route 9, which is actually officially 115, a lot of old folks don't remember that's Route 115. As you drive from Martinsburg down through there, you cross into Jefferson County, and as you get to the intersection in Carneysville, you make a left turn towards Shepherdstown, and you go underneath that railroad underpass, which is over 100 years old. As soon as you get through that railroad underpass, this 720-unit subdivision begins on your right. I think that is a particularly bad area for something this large. Not because the road system can't be improved to the point where it could handle that, but the problem is that underpass. It can't be made any wider unless the railroad agrees to do it. And if the railroad agrees to do it, either they pay for it, which would probably not be the case, or they say to the West Virginia Division of Highways, because these are 2 state roads, you have to pay to widen that underpass. That is a very expensive proposition. And so far, the Jefferson County Planning Commission has not, and I've been to 2 meetings on this, has not, to my knowledge, said to the developer, you've got to give us assurance from the railroad and the Division of Highways that this will be widened. So I think for that reason, the Jefferson County Planning Commission should say to the developers, you got to cut this down to way less than half, probably about 1/3 of the number of homes that you're going to put there, and not cause a traffic backup in that underpass. So that I've tried to sum this up. That is my view, and I throw it open to ideas from our panel.
John, that 720 home subdivision, how would that rank in Jefferson County in terms of size of subdivisions that have been built?
Oh, it's not nearly the largest, certainly. But the point I'm making is, and I should have said this, there are plenty of places in Jefferson County for a subdivision this size. But that's the whole idea of planning, is to know where things ought to be. And I'm criticizing the Planning Commission for not even factoring in the impact of that really, really narrow railroad underpass.
All right, let's start with the former president of the Berkeley County Commission, Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, John, I used to hear that it's that subdivisions cost the county money. They do not pay for themselves, whereas industry pays for themselves, actually adds money to the county's coffer. My observation of Jefferson County is that they have been very industry unfriendly. Rockwall's an example. The solar panels, even though solar panels do not bring a lot of money in, but the growth in Berkeley County, in Jefferson County, seems to be with subdivisions. And
yes,
yet,
it's all residential.
Residential. And if subdivisions do not pay for themselves in terms of the county budget, I don't see the logic of Jefferson County's philosophy in pushing back against industry and encouraging residential growth.
Residential growth does pay for itself if you have impact fees. That is the difference. And the problem is, in the last 3 years, the county commission has actually 3 or 4 years has cut impact fees down to $1.
But
but that's a separate question, Bill.
Yeah.
I'm talking about planning and locating.
Yeah, I know you are, but let me go back. Impact fees are a one-time expense. You do not continually bring in the money from impact fees in annually unless there's new growth coming in. Anyway, you're right. I did divert, but I don't see why there's such an emphasis in Jefferson County on residential growth at the exclusion of industry.
I don't think that there is. I think it's just that most industrial growth gravitates toward larger roads like 81. And I don't think there's wholesale opposition to every industrial proposal in Jefferson County.
Name one that has not been.
Tamar. There are a few people opposed to Tamar, but most people aren't.
Mr. Valente.
Yeah, I mean, we've witnessed this in northern Berkeley County with the explosion of growth up here, and to me, a lack of planning and addressing roads before they become obsolete because of the sheer volume. I think somebody made the comment that you rarely see a county commission or a planning commission push back on this stuff. They generally leave the matters of the building, the lot to the developers, and then everything else falls to whoever controls that. So it'll be a conversation between Jefferson County and their county commission, which has had its issues, and the state on what to do with that overpass. But we know that's going to be a slower conversation. People are going to be impacted when they move there, but I think for the county commission could go to that developer and say, hey, you're building a massive thing here, but you're going to have trouble selling it if people can't get in and out of this community. But I think a lot of county commissions just kind of pass the buck on that. But that is something that they should be concerned with is, all right, you're going to build a nice big community here, but if people are going to be too frustrated trying to get out of the community because there's a choke point there, then they're going to have issues selling those properties. But there's the planning commission needs to have a better plan as far as how to address some of these larger communities and how to get the people from point A of the community into point B of the larger traffic areas to get them out of the community and out of the areas so they can get to work or play or whatever.
I think this also goes to the greater question of what the state's role is in growth. You can't constantly say we want growth, we want more young people to move to our area, we want to keep our young people, encourage growth, and then not provide the roads that are necessary to go with growth. And Route 9 going through Hedgesville is the best example of that I can come up with. How long has it been since we've gotten any kind of movement on Route 9 from the State Highway Administration, while every governor after every governor talks about growth, growth, growth? Well, if you're going to encourage growth and you get it, you better back up those words by helping out with the roads, and they're not doing that nearly quickly enough. John
There's
Gilstrap.
another aspect as well. The state controls the entree onto the road system. So you cannot get a development approved unless the state gives permission to give access to the road.
Yeah, that 2-lane road that has right now a choke point, and look at, again, Hedgesville. Go through Hedgesville on a busy day.
And also, if I could piggyback on what Bill said, West Virginia is one of only 4 states, the others being Virginia, North Carolina, and Delaware, that has no county road systems. So therefore, all roads outside municipalities that aren't private are state roads. And it is more difficult to coordinate planning at the local level when it's the state that's going to decide when and if a road gets widened.
How far along is this project?
It's just been presented. It's gone through its first hearing.
So ground has not been broken yet.
Oh no,
Okay.
That's over a year from now, and there is at least one more public hearing, I think 2, that will be held before this is all.
I'm relatively new to this area, as we all know, and I come from Fairfax County, the land of running construction,
unlimited growth.
So, but for something like this, it's common that developers are required to do proffers. I mean, not only do they have to expand the bridge, they have to do a traffic light 3 miles away that doesn't affect them at all in order to do any development. Are there such things in place here at all in Jefferson County?
I think there is a provision to do proffers, but I
Excuse me,
personally,
John, in Jefferson County, yes. Berkeley County, no.
Right.
Okay,
We don't, right.
yeah. Well, but what I was about to say is I think, actually in Berkeley County, I think proffers are legal. It's impact fees that are not.
I don't think proffers are illegal either.
Oh, okay.
We don't have the zoning.
Impact fees are now legal.
Yes.
In Berkeley County. That legislation was passed in Charleston this year.
Okay. I thought because I was in the legislature when we put the one in that also allowed proffers, and I thought that applied to everybody, but maybe it doesn't. At any rate, I think impact fees are a better way to do it because the price is the price. With the proffer, it's negotiated between the local government and the developer. And to me, this just puts the onus on elected and appointed county officials, county commissioners and planning commissioners, to be good bargainers. And that is normally not something that is talked about by the public when they decide who to elect to the county commission. Are you going to be a better bargainer than your opponent?
Well, my suggestion would be, if you're at that stage, that if you're going to build, Mr. Developer, if you're going to build this thing, you find a way to avoid that bridge. It's going to be way expensive these things are built, they're 100 and however many years old.
Yeah.
So you find a back door that will become the front door to your facility and find a way for your residents to get on and off the roads.
It's right adjacent to Rockwell, so you can put a road through Rockwell, but I think Rockwell's going to charge them a good bit of money to do that.
It's not the way I look at this,
Yeah.
it's not the county's problem to figure out how this guy makes a whole bunch of money by building a whole bunch of roads. It's their problem to figure out how they make the county happy.
Carl.
One thing not to overlook in terms of the county's policy and what they encourage in between business development and residential development is the difference in property tax rates for residential, personal residences versus, business property. It's 2-to-1 difference in the rates. So every dollar of industrial development versus, residential development yields a lot more for decades revenue to the county.
So certainly.
John, final word is yours.
Well, and again, I'm not saying they shouldn't build a subdivision. I just think it ought to be elsewhere. That is the whole idea of planning.
In Berkeley County.
Okay. No, is figure out where in your jurisdiction are the best places for certain types of development. That's all.
That's what the Planning Commission's job is.
And that's what your zoning pattern would be.
That's right.
Issue number 5, Michael Carl.
I had 3 suggested topics, and the first 2 were very partisan, and so I'm going to the objective, open-ended one. And the question is, not at the end of the debate, but in the election, the ultimate election, which will matter more, the major policy differences and performances of 2 presidents, or their personality and personal differences in terms of their manner and intellect and just the way they handle themselves. Which of those areas will matter the most in the election?
David Valente, do people vote for who they like or who they think is more qualified?
I think in this election it's going to be who they like better, who they there are certain issues that are going to resonate with people, but I think whenever you have Donald Trump involved in an election, it's going to be more personality based. They call it a cult of personality for a reason, and this election will definitely go down on personality. More than even some hot button issues such as immigration or economics.
John Gilstrap.
I think it's going to ultimately come down to personality on either side, and the voters are going to then convince themselves that it's based on policies.
Quite succinct, Mr. Stumblefield.
And the policies, the success of the policy is going to be in the eye of the beholder. I suspect Mike Carl and I would differ upon the success of President Biden.
Mr. Doyle.
I think personality, and again, I agree with David, because of Donald Trump. He's going to make it about personality. He can't help himself.
Mike, they succinctly wrapped up your topic.
Yeah,
there.
they did. Well, I have to say that just as one voter, I can't say what anybody else, how they'll approach it, but I am in favor of Trump because of his policies and in spite of his personality.
You've made that point since Trump came down the escalator.
Yeah.
I think
that's an interesting point. I think that a lot of Biden voters are going to be Biden voters because they really hate Trump.
What percentage do you think qualifies as that?
Oh, I have no idea.
10? Estimate. Take a guess.
Oh, I think it's more than 10. How many independents are there?
Nationally?
What's
as a percentage of the electorate? I don't know the answers.
I'd say that's 30%.
40%.
40%, then I would say 30%.
I'm sorry about 35%. Yeah.
Okay, so half of the independent voters who vote for Biden are going to be voting because they hate Trump, not because they love Biden. And so is that a vote for personality, or is that a vote?
It is, because you're voting against a personality.
Okay, so it's anti-personality.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But I bet it's much higher than that, John.
It could very well. He asked me for a number. I said a lot.
No,
So
I think
so I went for the middle. I'm not overcommitting.
How specific.
Yeah.
When I was learning my numbers back there in kindergarten, I don't remember where a lot fell. Was that between 5 and 8?
Somewhere above a skosh.
And I think
pinch.
In this particular election, the majority of the people will be voting against someone, then they'll be voting for someone. And against someone is going to be based upon the personality or the appearance of one of the two.
No, I would be voting.
That's been the case for a while.
I'm sorry, do what?
That's been the case for a while. I mean, people voted against Hillary Clinton. People voted against Donald Trump. People voted against Donald Trump in 2020. People voted against Joe Biden in 2020. It's just a continuation. We've been. I've called it a race to the bottom when it comes to candidates that, had the Democrats and to the Republicans. I think they're accepting the idea that Trump is probably their most popular candidate, at least amongst their base. But we've gone to a race to the bottom as far as the quality of candidates being proffered by the two major parties, that we're just being forced to settle and hold our nose to go into the voting booth to pick one of these guys.
That is true, except I do think part of the blame should fall on all of us collectively, all 330 million of us. We've gotten into a psychology among a lot of people, not everybody, that if the candidate doesn't agree with me about everything, that makes that candidate an evil. And so therefore, if the candidate that agrees more with me, which Joe Biden does, let's say I agree with him 75% of the time, I don't consider him to be 75% good. I'm not talking about me now. I'm talking about this psychology. I consider him to be 25% evil. And therefore, since Trump is 50% evil, Biden is the lesser of two evils. I do think we need to get out of the idea of thinking that my candidate must agree with me about everything.
That official tool of measurement is called John Doyle's evilometer, by the way.
Well, I kind of, my version of that is simply I support the candidate who advocates the bulk of the important issues more than the other.
I support the candidate who's most likely to stay out of my life. I just leave me alone.
You've got an interesting set of choices then, because one of them's gonna be popping up on your social media every second of the day.
Yeah.
And the other one's gonna be popping up on your social media every day because the other one's posting it.
Right.
So you're out on both cases there. I just think it's fascinating that in an era where you hear so much disdain for baby boomers from the younger generation, right? What's that saying? Yeah, right boomer or all right boomer,
yes.
Whatever that is.
Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. There it is. Thank you. You have two candidates, one who predates the baby boom and the other one who was born on the first year of the edge of the baby boom, and they're back again for a second turn at it, right? And this is a generation of people who are supposedly rejecting baby boomers for the damage that we've done to the world.
And that's why they're saying they don't like either one.
But they're both nominated from their parties.
I know.
Right?
They're not coughing up one of their own.
They're both. You're not exactly,
Yeah.
John. They're not propping up one of their own candidates, are they? Hey, final thoughts. You get 8 seconds apiece coming out of this.
Hi, Crescia Hornby here. Larry DeMarco, broker of Modern Realty Results, believes he has some of the best real estate agents in the Eastern Panhandle. Agents at Modern Realty Results have years of experience and knowledge of the local real estate market. Agents within the office work as a team to provide quality customer service. We strive to always ensure client satisfaction through handling every transaction with honesty and integrity, all while offering competitive rates. Modern Realty Results is veteran-owned and managed. Please call us at 262-4222, modernrealtyresults.com.
Do you have someone in a nursing home? Or are you worried about somebody you love going into a nursing home? The law firm of Daniel Staggers can protect your assets. Call the law firm of Daniel Staggers today at 304-267-3915. The Daniel Staggers Law Firm does elder care law, estate planning, and special needs trusts for disabled children and family members. Visit the Daniel Staggers Law Firm for your initial free consultation at 133 East John Street in Martinsburg. The Daniel Staggers Law Firm, when you need asset protection for you or for a family member.
How can you live more fully during a serious illness? Dottie tells how Hospice of the Panhandle helped her family.
My brother Speedy became the base commander after he had been in the Air Guard for a few years and then became a general. He was the type of guy that would take people under his wing. Speedy developed a form of brain cancer, and he ended up coming to Hospice of the Panhandle, and he wanted to be around his friends, and Hospice of the Panhandle made that possible. He had over 200 visitors when he was here, and one of Speedy's last wishes was to fly over the Shenandoah Valley, and Hospice of the Panhandle helped me make that possible for him. I don't think there was one person that didn't bend over backwards to make sure that my brother was comfortable, and they would ask me, "How are you doing?" Hospice of the Panhandle, thank you so much for treating us like family.
Live on with expert care from Hospice of the Panhandle. Learn more at hospiceotp.org. or call 304-264-0406.
Final thoughts, 8 seconds each. We start with David Valente via telephone. David.
Yeah, if you need to enforce your religious doctrine at the barrel of a gun, that speaks to the fact that you have no faith in the word of your God.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Unlike what the Admiral implied, I'm very judicious about who I whack off.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Come on, Gilstrap. Hey,
That's your 8 seconds.
Stay cool, folks. Stay cool.
Mr. Carl.
Cards and the Bucks moving toward the top of the National League Central.
Mr. Doyle.
And the Nationals begin a 3-game series in Colorado, which means I get to watch Brenton Doyle play center field. He's
Dave
unfortunately
Ramsey
no
show is
relation.
Next, this is Talk Radio. WRNR Martinsburg and TV 10. We'll talk to you in 70. Short hour.